Welcome to the Moon God Pod. I'm your host, Jason Harrell. With me always is JwowLax. And today we got the big guy, the sweeper of fantasy draft kings, you name it. He is a moon god. He is H-Man. H-Man, how's it going today?
What's up? What's up? Thank you guys for having me. Looking forward to this.
So in this series, we are just getting rolling. We've got so many great moon gods to come out. For various reasons, there's guys that like I want to have, especially as we kick it off. And you jumped straight to the top. First of all, we've known each other since, I mean, day one, basically in the Discord with the Genesis release. We'll get into that in a second, but you've done something monumental. We started the DraftKings Moon God Akutar series type thing where we've all been able to participate in these free rolls every Sunday. There are 5 leagues because of the 5 teams for Akutars. And my man, you didn't just win one, which it would be like basically like one out of like 100 people. You won all 5 leagues. Uh, Walk us through this monumental occasion and what you plan on doing with the big winnings.
Yeah, man. I would say the first couple weeks I was breaking up the 5 teams into 2 or 3 lineups, two, one, whatever it was, and I couldn't, find myself cracking the top 10. So I said, you know what? I'm spreading out all the guys I like on different teams. Why don't I see, really deep dive in, throw every guy on one squad, risk it all, and man, it paid out. I wish I had a close to repeat performance. I was pretty near the bottom this week. I was taking some flyers, but man, that felt sweet. That felt
So
sweet.
if I can interrupt real quick, I am a guy who does a lot of DFS, and I analyze your lineup, sir. And I can tell this is not your first time around the barn, so to speak, right? So when you look at your Tyler Boyds and I forget whoever else you used, I can tell you are not trying to either you win or you just bust out. I'm assuming that's your philosophy with DFS.
Yeah, that's my move. I mean, especially in this league, only first place is taking home some prize. So you could put up 175 points, come in second, and it's on to next week. So you really got to take those flyers in my books.
Yeah, I definitely saw the leverage spot. So I'm like, okay, I see what I'm doing, dealing with now. Now it's time to step my game up. I've won one, so I'm one of, I have one win, you have 5, but please know I'm coming for you. Just to understand that.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. That's awesome.
And if I happen to win even one of the leagues or one week, it is 100% because I'm smarter than you. I've done minutes of research, to really put it to you. I felt good about this week because I have one team that I was like, man, I really kind of went rogue and did like, just put some more thought into it than I have, but I'm not doing any research. The extent of my research is whatever Tony and Mike are talking about on PTI for 30 minutes. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So the NFL's not scoring as much. And then I try and sound like a professional. So
Yeah, man. It's
I
been fun though. It's nice to get like, a lot of back and forth banter about, more casual things with the squad as well.
I think it's great that not only for our community to have like the DraftKings, every Sunday, like it gives more engagement to the community. It's a free roll, which is, what other communities are doing that. But as I come from a poker background and I've been playing, I play professionally, but I've also been playing for, 15 years plus now. I see a lot of poker players in the NFT space in general, and certainly poker players kind of went from online poker, especially in America, to then like DraftKings and daily fantasy, and now they're in the NFT space. Like, is that any kind of draw that maybe connected you, or what do you see with that kind of thought?
Yeah. I would say going through college, I always had the, get big, get quick kind of thing. So, I was gambling back then. That was maybe prior to when, you had the Caesars and the DraftKings around. So, it was always a little sketchy. You had to go through, whatever you did to, get your bet in there. So I always liked playing poker too. But honestly, the NFT space found me. I had a friend of mine put me onto Bitcoin probably back summer 2020, kind of right when it was coming up off the bottoms.
Mm.
And I was like, all right, like, what's this? Looked into it, became a Bitcoin maxi in like 2 seconds, wouldn't buy any ETH, wouldn't buy anything else. I was just sold straight Bitcoin. That's it. And then I started hopping on Twitter, kind of meeting all these other people and, really diving into other people's takes on the matter who had been in it for way longer than 2 months like me.
Mm.
And, found that there's, a lot more to, cryptocurrency and, basically an online world in general. So that's kind of my gateway in from there.
What was the first NFT that you bought?
The first NFT that I bought was a Ferocious drop. That's actually what finally got me to pull the trigger. Ferocious dropped with what was the name of it? The company was called Illumino. They basically did a drop. There were 2 open editions with Ferocious. And if you minted one of the open editions about an hour after the drop, they were going to give away this like beautiful signed, hand painted guitar from Ferocious. So that was always on the back of my mind. I was hearing numbers already for 200 grand for the guitar. The
Mm.
open edition was $1,000, and I said, you know what, this is a lot for me at the time. I was only 23, I think. So it's not like I had too much real world salary behind my back yet, but took the flyer. It was up only at that point on Nifty Gateway. I'm sure you remember those days, about
Yeah.
a month or two prior to Chapter 1. So
You mean
yeah.
you didn't win the guitar? I know exactly what release you're talking about because I participated as well.
Oh yeah, dude, that was a fun drop. That was a
That
good
gu-
one.
that guitar. So we kind well, Lovox is he's the OG in this little tripod that we've got going now, but he got me in pretty much because of Top Shot. But I believe Ferocious was one of the first NFTs that I bought as well with the guitar. But it's interesting, and I don't know if you did this, but like that piece has gotten us into the Ferocious paint parties. And so, the first one I think we did was NFT NYC, which is the first time I think we met.
Yep.
And then we did Miami. I did LA, and then so that's kind of been cool. He's an interesting person, you know. like,
Yeah, man.
but his art is very unique. Lovox, you love his art.
Oh yeah, it's one of the most distinctive. If you see a ferocious piece, you know exactly what it is, and I love that about what he does. H-Man, my first what was my first NFT purchase? It was on it's gonna bother me. It was on it was a what's the DJ JwowLax, the DJ, the famous DJ, Dead Mouse.
The mouths, yeah.
It was a Dead Mouse drop on uh, kind of an obscure platform, and when, it was a pack release, and I got lucky, and I hit one of the like the rarest like release in the pack, and I'm like, at this time I didn't know anything about NFTs, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna list this for $5,000, right? So I went to sleep and I went for a walk. I said, you know what? It's too cheap. I'm going to list it for $11,000, right? So I went home. I woke up the next day and it sold for $11,000. And at that point, I'm like, this is incredible. So then that led to, I did the Beeple Open Edition and just I was and probably still am, like I'm just a huge Nifty Gateway guy. So like I specialized in Nifty Gateway. If there's a Nifty Gateway thing, then I was probably on it. So I would say Nifty Gateway was probably my gateway, if you will, into the NFT space.
Same with me, man. That was fun times. That was really fun times. I didn't get in early quite enough. I was about a month after the Beeple drop is when I started to take looks at drops. And yeah, man, that was pretty unique, man, because everybody got excited and basically everyone revolved their day around that 5 minutes for that open edition drop that day.
Isn't
It
it
was kind of like,
interesting? I mean, isn't it so interesting how 1 month in the NFT space means everything? 1 month too late means it might as well be like 10 years too late. So it's so
yep,
fascinating to me.
it's crazy.
Do you still have the FIWO piece?
I actually parted ways with it. I would like to get back in. Luckily, I parted ways a lot higher than where it's at right now. Those things ran like 8x, man, and $1,000 was already hurting me at the time. So to cash one of those out kind of funded actually my whole Aku chapter journey, which was really nice about it. So, but I honestly do want to get back in. I currently don't own any Ferocious, and that kind of grinds my gears every day because that was my gateway in, and that's someone I appreciate what they're doing every day. So I would like to get back involved there.
I'd like to know what they're doing every day. I mean, I know he's doing some kind of art every day, and like what is like I've got a bunch of paint. Loveox has a bunch of paint, and he's got some other pieces. Like, but that's one thing that's different between different projects is like some of the transparency, and you can kind of like I know as a moon god, we have this privileged access, but even the privileged access can get a little frustrating when we're like Mike is really good about sitting there saying like, oh man, can't wait to show you guys what I'm cooking on, and then it's like crickets. It's like, don't do that to me. Like, what are you cooking? I'm curious how that experience is for you, but also you're in some other bigger communities. What's your opinion on like the transparency within the Moon Gods versus like some of the other projects you're associated with?
Yeah, man. I mean, the fact that we got a Moon God channel with Micah in it, who I would say pops in nearly every single day to at least say what's good, is very, very unique. There's a lot of projects where people would do anything for just a like on Twitter, so it's a very different experience. I think there are a lot of pros with it. Obviously, people were kind of expecting things to happen daily and weekly in an industry like this, and that it's just because of the speed that it was going. But I mean, it's nearly impossible to build a business, a brand in, weeks and days. I mean, people have quarterly reviews that are publicly traded companies, and they always feel that that's even too soon to give updates on things. So it's really unique that we can kind of we can tag Mike at any time we want if you got a serious question you need the answer to, and 95 out of 100 he's going to hit you back pretty soon. So that's really cool. I mean, I'm involved obviously in the Board Ape Yacht Club too. I don't think I would have someone like Gordon or Garga on call like that if I needed it.
Yeah.
They obviously have people to reach out to you if you really need help or whatnot. But the fact that you can go right to the source right off the rip is pretty great.
And how did so you have an interesting story, like especially in the beginning. I find it fascinating. Anyone that's especially been a Moon God since day one, like that minted Genesis. You found out about Micah in kind of like a real world way, as opposed to like the traditional NFT way. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so Genesis dropped. I didn't have the funds at the time to grab it, but I saw that it minted like 1,400 editions, something crazy. I mean, that's at the time a $1.5 million sale. Pretty sure it was record breaking on Nifty Gateway for the time. And I was like, all right, like I got to find a way to get in here. And then classic Nifty Gateway times was tripled in a day. So I was like, oh man, I got to really figure out a way to get involved. And I would say it was probably the first week of March, so about 2-3 weeks after the drop, it came down a little bit. Towards about 1,500, I was able to get in. Then I kind of joined the Discord, and I saw that one tweet he wrote about badges. You got your title when you got 1 chapter, 2 chapters, all the way down to Moon God. And I said to myself, all right, something's really cooking here for the major supporters. Chapter 2 came, bought that drop, was obviously a much lower edition. So now I'm thinking to myself, all right, like, is it really like that? Is it kind of just people wanted the Genesis piece and that's it? And then I was living in New York City, still am at the time, and I saw that Micah was coming to Christie's to do his My Name Is drop. And I reached out to him and Roger on Twitter, and I said, hey, I'm a collector, a couple of your chapters, would love to come, meet you guys at the event. And I don't think it's that they didn't hit me back or whatever it was. They were like, yeah, you're good, like, pull up. So I pulled up to Christie's, and I didn't have a ticket. And I remember Micah literally offered me his wife's ticket to come in because he could get her in without it. Yeah. And I hope he remembers this when he watches this. And it was pretty cool. So I made it in. I didn't actually go in to see him speak, but I kind of just hung out and walked around Christie's, was looking at his piece on the wall, ended up getting pictures with him and Roger out front of it. It was pretty amazing. So, from there, then Micah bought me lunch, which was just so unnecessary. I mean, he'd just met me. So that was really cool. Kind of got to talk to him about what his plans are and why he's doing this. And that was kind of the biggest seller for me at that point. I was like, all right, I got to figure out a way to make sure I can get all 10 of these chapters. And, they made it pretty easy when they gift you 2 chapter 4s. You're
Mm.
able to sell one that covers 3 of your expenses already, and then the same with chapter 8. So, you know, that's kind of the way that I got involved.
JwowLax, what are you thinking?
No, I think that's a super cool kind of authentic story. I know you mentioned that you were doing the whole Nifty Gateway thing, looking at drops. What in particular caught your attention about the Aku Genesis chapter?
I'd tell you the first thing that caught my eye, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, was the volume. I mean, the fact that they were able to sell that many editions, and then I started looking through the collectors that were buying it, and there were a lot of collectors that I wouldn't say I was copy trading, but I would, if they were buying something, I was like, all right, like, maybe this is something to look deeper at. And then I kind of just watched it 2, 3, 4 times over, and I was like, damn, this really is amazing. All the art on the walls, it's not one piece. There's like 100 pieces within the piece, So it was like, wow, like I really gotta to try to get in here. And then I saw chapter 2 come out, and I was like, all right, like now I was just mentally invested for the whole story. I couldn't give up there, so I was like looking through, and it was pretty amazing. And I'll never forget. I think it was chapter 3, which makes it even more significant. But I was having trouble minting one of the chapters.
Mm.
And I remember I wrote in the Discord, I forget whatever our title was at the time, only had a couple chapters. And I wrote in there like, oh my God, my card's not working. Like, someone help me out, please. And Deeds bought an extra one and sent it to me at mint cost, which was, man, changing for me. If I didn't get that chapter, maybe I would have fallen off the bandwagon, wouldn't be where I am right now. But I mean, that act of kindness just had me even more hooked to the people involved. And that was kind of before the community necessarily mattered. That was like very early on stages. So I was like, damn, like someone was willing to do this for me. Like at the time he gave it to me, it was already up like $900. And I was like, wow, like, so kind of from then on, I mean, every little thing that just happened on the journey, like just drew me closer and closer. There was not like even one thing that was kind of like, am I sure about this? So that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting with the chapter 3 because I had problems minting too, and I had to then go and buy on secondary, and I think I bought it mine for like 1,400. I mean, works out now, but
Oh
like
yeah.
it's kind of one of those. It was very frustrating, but now it's like that's probably one of the best things that could have happened because now there's only 529 ever possible moon gods, which also made the number of the mega OGs so low as well. Did you have one moon god set?
Yeah, I got one Moon God set. No extra chapters. At these levels, I'm thinking about it, to be honest, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like if I wanted to go after the next chapters again, I'd be so inclined to just go for a full set again, which could get a little bit pricey even in today's market. So we'll see about that.
So do you have your one mega?
Yeah, I got my one mega. I got the 2 OGs that I minted, and I've kind of just been going for base Akutars right now. I think there's real value obviously there. So that's been my thoughts. And honestly, just there's so many traits that I want, and to get some of these cool traits with a chapter background are pricey. So kind of just trade sniping near the floor at the moment.
So recently, the news for the commercial rights just kind of came out with the Moon God, the Megas. What do you think is unique and interesting about that? And does that like compel you to possibly like now you get gifted this one Moon God? There's always it's kind of like dating, like you might like the one you got, but there's a couple others out there that you might be interested in different traits, different styles. But does that commercial rights thing kind of change, like where you'd like to flip out of the one you have, or maybe accumulate others?
It's a good question. I haven't had obviously too much time to think about it because it was so recent.
Mm.
I love the one I have. He's wearing an Aku t-shirt. So that'll end up looking like a plain white tee if I were to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I kind of like how simple it is. At the same time, I also have 2 friends in real life. I'll shout them out, Hawkins and Franco, who also ended up getting themselves Mega OG Aquitars. They weren't able to get into the Moon God status, but there was a good entry point for Mega OGs, honestly, a month or 2 back. So they took advantage of that. And one of them reached out to me and they were like, hey, we should probably look into doing something. And my first instinct is I've owned all these, the one ape and the couple mutants for all this time, and I've never done anything with it. Why would I do something here? And then they kind of talked about how, while Micah's building the story of Aku, we really have a chance to expand on that. If you were to do something with your ape, you're kind of creating a new story, or you're expanding on the stories that other people have created with theirs. You kind of have a chance to expand on top of what Micah's creating, which is extremely more unique, but also kind of puts more pressure on you, and you don't want to, people make all the lunchbox jokes, or like like I wouldn't want to put it on a lunchbox per se. I think it deserves much more than that. So I don't know. We talked about it, and I think we're going to try to dabble into something. We got some ideas floating, but nothing concrete enough to even mention here yet. But like you were saying with the other ones, I mean, every day I see a mega that's so great. But as you know, with this community, man, nobody's letting anything go anywhere near a price point that would be more favorable for a buyer than a seller. So it's a little difficult if you were wanted to trade up for a different one per se.
With the Bored Ape community that you're a part of, they're so colossal, and it's funny because when you think back, like I remember the night that they were minting, and people were just would tweet and say, you know what, I'm gonna go get 5 more apes. I'm gonna go get 10 more apes. Like it did not sell out quick. Did you mint? And also, how have you held on to this thing?
Man, I caught mine probably, it was 1.75 ETH. I want to say it was June. So about a month after the drop, a month and a week or so. I think it was June 1st, actually. And I don't know, the holding on thing is a little crazy. So when it was going up, obviously everything else was going up as well. So I said to myself, and then I kind of saw, there were a couple of bear markets. I remember there was the summer 2021 had a nice bear. And then at the end of, obviously the beginning of 2022 had a good one. And there was one in the middle somewhere as well. But anyway, whatever it was, I saw the way that different things moved with price action. And these things kind of were, they were like Iron Man to these dips. It was crazy. Like they would dip, but then they would go straight back up. So I said to myself, listen, this was the first one that really multiplied for me. I got to try to hold on as strong as I can. Obviously, you saw those tweets during the wag me times, don't let the institutions get your apes and stuff like that. And, I bought into that pretty good for a second. So I can't say that it doesn't cross my mind sometimes. I mean, $100,000 would be life-changing. But I mean, I believe in this technology. I believe in the space. And I believe that, collections like Aku and Bored Ape Yacht Club are ones that would be very, I would say it's almost an underdog bet to assume that it won't grow bigger at this point, both of those brands. So that's kind of where my head's been at. I took some profits off of probably 95% of what I had. I'd say what I'm kind of holding right now is the JwowLax assets, all my Aku assets, and then I'm involved in Recur, which I think is pretty cool because they're just doing cheap NFTs, trying to onboard, new people, credit card, $5, stuff like that. So I like to support someone like that who's trying to go mainstream as well. And that's kind of just where my head's at. So it's hard for me to sell now because the stuff that I'm in, I like really long term. So it's tricky, but I don't know. I did sell one of my mutants actually a couple weeks back. I just moved to a new apartment on outer space actually. So so I needed some funds to kind of do myself right by the new spot. But I don't know. When I got into this whole thing, I said to myself, it's not a 1-year game. It's not a 2-year game. You're betting the 10-year game. So, go big or go home, as I've been saying day one. So that's my thought process here.
Do you see any comparisons between the Bored Ape Yacht Club and Aku by chance? Do you see any parallels that get your attention?
I would say I think about that often, actually. Funny you say that. I mean, the biggest differentiator of the two is obviously the community really in the Bored Ape Yacht Club is utilizing the IP to try to build a more bigger name for the brand. Well, as with Aku, we put out some dope content, but I mean, he's the one really driving the brand. He's the one partnering with the Googles and the Disneys and the, companies like that, Spring Hill, to try to make something of it. So that's a little more of a differentiator. In the same though, I mean, the diamond hands that these people have, the way I'm saying, I don't know, I couldn't get rid of it. You guys are probably the same way with at least your Moon God chapter. So it's that these people just have full belief in the, in Micah or in the founders to really build what they said that they aspire to do. So that's probably the biggest belief. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out here that, I like, and then I kind of look around and I'm like, man, am I the only one that's, playing the long game with this. So obviously Aku's not in that boat, and neither is the Board Ape Yacht Club. So that's what I like about that. And I don't know, building in silence. I mean, everyone wants that hype video every other day. And that picture that Dirk put out the other day was pretty dope. But I mean, I don't need a $1 million CGI video that's going to attract 100,000 people to view a video and then kind of pump for a bit and then go back down. It's all organic. If you want in, there's a spot to get in. If you don't want in, maybe you'll want in the future. And if not, like, feel like people support Aku that aren't even involved, obviously, because of the mishaps that have happened in the story that Aku is in general, that buys right into it. So
you're from New York. You live in New York?
yeah, grew up in Jersey, in New York now.
There's been a couple of NFT NYCs now. Did you go to Miami? Were you at Art Basel? You didn't?
I did. I'll be there this year though. I'm not missing that again.
So, as like just the space in general has grown, like what do you kind of expect to see in Miami coming up? You saw the videos and like you saw what it was from a distance. We were there. I was there every day. I mean, it was pretty exciting. So when I hear, 5x, 10x of what it was last year, like what's your expectation?
I try to keep expectations down personally because I don't like to get disappointed, especially when I'm the one disappointing myself with expectations like that. But I don't know. I mean, what I saw last year looked pretty damn spectacular, especially for what was going on at that time in the space. I mean, when he says bigger, I mean, I think obviously there's a lot of Fashion Week involvement that we've had, so I could see something like that kind of taking place down with Aku World. I could see maybe, something with the Spring Hill production coming to light a little bit come Miami time. Obviously, we got all these partner traits. Maybe they got some people that they're partnered with as well that'll come and represent those brands at Aku World, which would then introduce them and a whole larger audience to Aku as well. People kind of go the music performance route, so I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of dabbled in that as well. But it's hard to tell. We're a community where we don't want to kind of splurging all the funds on random fun events for the day, but stuff like that is pretty cool. I'm kind of just excited to meet everyone because I met you, and obviously I think it was like 9 or 10 of us at the that meetup on Halloween last year. So
Yeah.
almost a year ago now, which is pretty crazy. But I really haven't had a chance to meet too many people outside of that. So.
And what are you doing with your social media presence? Like, because I find it really interesting, like you're growing like your Twitter presence. I don't know that that's something that is important to you or it's just a byproduct of you kind of wanting to be involved. But do you are you giving it like kind of serious thought and like what you're putting out there? And is there, like kind of a motive behind it, or is it just a byproduct?
I'd say my first motive is it's fun for sure. It's definitely a good time. I would say our community is very humble. So I think that putting out, when there's big sales and, big market movements and kind of hype posts, I feel like I'm doing my part because I'm a lot more extroverted and outgoing, as I would say, a lot of people are more humble in our community. So, every project's doing it. And for short-term price action and kind of how things are moving to get people's attention, like that's the way to keep people's attention at the moment. So I try to, make sure I'm putting out content about the people I support that I think is meaningful. It would be cool to get a big following, but at the end of the day, I want, if Aku and Bored Ape Yacht Club and Recur are able to kind of go to levels that I believe it can, it would be cool to kind of have my name as an afterthought attached to that as well. Right now, I'm a full-time employee. I work for my family company. We're a floor covering distributor, so we sell to builders and contractors in New York City and the greater area. So that takes up most of my day. And, a lot of people quit to go full-time Web3. I couldn't because I love it so much. Me and my sister are the 4th generation involved. So that's a pretty cool feat. I think we're 102 years old this year. So it's that's something that keeps me going on my day job, obviously, every day. And I don't know, it'd be cool, but I would never be able to fully invest all the time and energy necessary into it to make a real name out of it the way some of these people have. But I don't know, I just try to brighten up people's day, put out good vibes, and that's kind of where the H man came from. My name's Harrison, but I kind of liked it as like a hype man kind of thing too. So that's really where that's kind of my place in the puzzle.
Well, you're too young, but maybe you still are aware, like He-Man. Like every time I see you, I think of He-Man, which was like my childhood, like go-to toy cartoon, like in the '80s, and the guy, the muscle guy with the sword. I have the power. Like, so that's what I associate you with. I call you He-Man in my mind.
Nice, love it,
In
love
terms
it.
of social proof, right? We have Time Magazine. You mentioned Spring Hill. We have loose ties to Jay-Z, loose ties to Pharrell, and I feel like we're the best kept secret this side of the Mississippi River. What can we do, in your opinion, to let people know exactly what we are? Because I feel like people just don't even understand what's going on. I'm curious on your thoughts on that.
Dude, I think about this every single day. My buddy Hawk, who I said also got involved into Aku. I mean, every day we're sending each other ones at the floor like, damn, someone's really willing to let this go for this price. Like, what are they actually looking to buy then, you know? So it's been I don't know, it's hard because I really do think we're the best kept secret too. I mean, there's a few things. We got a bigger collection than normal, which I think makes it a little harder for price action to get to levels. Number two, I would say is like obviously a lot of people know Aku for the first time because of the mishap in the contract on the Akutar midday. And I tweeted about this the other day. I feel like sometimes people kind of make up their mind on day one what that means, and they kind of put their own story to it. Like I've seen people post like, "Oh, Aku lost all their money. Like, get out while you can." Like, not knowing that he did millions and millions of dollars in chapter revenues. Also had a background with a high-paying salary in baseball, and is just completely motivated to the product. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. We got all the foundations, right? Like you were saying. And I think it almost just takes a development in those partnerships to kind of move everything a little bit. Like people can see that we're partnered with Spring Hill and the loose ties to Jay-Z and say, oh, that's cool. But then the first time something actually comes to light with those partnerships is that's when people are going to want to get in, which is pretty crazy about our space. People kind of wait for the, buy the news kind of thing a little bit more so in this. So it's it's interesting. I really don't know what else we can do. I mean, Mike is doing everything right. Summer's doing everything right. Bringing Roger on board was a big addition. I mean, these Aku assemblies every week are spectacular. I don't think any community's even doing that anymore. Micah talks to the community, interacts with the community, shows a little bit of what he's building without giving away too many secrets. So, I think about it a lot. I think they're really playing it by the book very well. I think that they think similarly to what I was saying before is they don't want to just little pump and then let people kind of do their thing and get in and get out, whatnot. I think they want to build like a family here, which is pretty great and why I like to stay involved. But I don't know, man. I think about that a lot as well. I think that in the space right now, there might not be anything that could really propel anything to any new heights. I mean, we see Renga pumping right now, but I mean, that'll find its way down just like Goblin Town did, in my opinion. And, I don't wish harm on any of these communities. Just when you think about it in the US dollar terms, I mean, why is a Rengo worth, what is it, $5,000 now? Like, $5,000 can get you a lot. So when I think in those terms, I think the space has a lot of onboarding to do and mainstream attention necessary to these USD price points, even in ETH terms, to be like reasonable, right? Like I look at Akutars at $500 and I say that is a very reasonable entry point that seems very fair right now for what they got building. They got a lot coming, and maybe some of that comes to fruition, and the price point deserves to be higher. But I hate when things look too inflated because then that's when people want to get out. So I kind of like the slow and steady movements. But I don't know. What about you guys? Because I ask myself that question very often, truthfully.
One thing I always tell JwowLax was, in my opinion, what could be a big catalyst or a big event that could lead to growth. And my go-to was always ownership, right? Be it a token, be it anything that gives us fiscal motivation in the growth of Aku. And in my mind, the first shot at the bow was the mega OGs. I'm very, very, very high on the mega OGs, and I feel like with the talent that's been shown in the community, in the discords and the chats, that if one of those things just kind of can get to prominence, a rising tide lifts all boats. I really think that could do it. Like I'm very, very high on the megas, and I've been trying to, even at prices now, like I still would like to acquire one or two more. So that's my short answer. My longer answer is I think it's hard to onboard people who aren't familiar with an Ethereum wallet, who don't know how to go to OpenSea, who don't know how to do all those things. That's a hurdle that I'm not quite sure how you overcome because it is somewhat technical. And then every other day there's a scam where people go to the website and they try to mint something and they lose all their stuff. I think that as a space is something that we have to figure out. JWoww,
No,
what do you think?
no doubt.
Yeah, I was. That's exactly what I was thinking when you mentioned the scams. It's like it's weird with the Akutars, and I mean I don't know that for a fact, but whenever I see like 3, 4, 5 WETH offers taken in a row, I'm kind of like, oh man, did something happen? Like did someone get compromised? Um, I can never understand sometimes when pieces go or like why some of these offers are taken. It's like did you just wake up and like get a have a bill collector knocking on your door and need money like right away or something? You just never know. um as far as like what's the next step, I God, how long have we really been in this? Like it's been a year and a half of it feels like 10 years, right?
Yeah.
I've almost gotten to a point where it's like, man, like we speculated so much, and you know, this time last year, I believe was when we were kind of discussing close to what the row model. There was mention that there was going to be a Aku's row model, and I think like Micah had been on like a private jet to meet like some billionaire, and we're like, fuck, was it Elon Musk? Like, is he hanging out with Jeff Bezos? Like who was it? And I've kind of pulled back because the speculation roller coaster is a bit much. You know, I I keep thinking to myself like if the LeBron or the KD or Jay Z, like, but it has to be one of those. If they come out and they're like, I'm all about this project, I think that can move. LeBron is the biggest one for me because all he has to do is tell his teammates, hey, you guys need to get in on this. And it's no money for, the NBA players. And they, as a whole, could kind of move it. Like if I found out that, now I wouldn't be able to do this, but like, if I was in a position, like if I found out like the Moon God channel had, 10 NBA players in it, and there's like I look as the Moon God channel as like this mastermind, so like I think that's a thing, like so and even the megas and all that, like there's this cool VIP club, and then the Akutars and just having chapters is kind of like you're in the club, you're just not behind the velvet rope, but you're still enjoying the show. I mean, we were at Miami, you know, I mean, I'm older, but like Pusha T was just hanging out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, I mean, I didn't know who he was, like I knew who he was, but then when he, his record drops this year and like it's like number one, I was like, oh crap. But I had no idea who this, I was like, oh, this guy, the younger guys that I know were like, what? Like to me, I guess it was like if I had been hanging out with Snoop Dogg and you know, like 20 years ago or something. But I part of it is just it's gonna take time, and I've kind of reserved like this is not something that I'm necessarily trying to flip. I do know like if I need real life funds for something that I can kind of move some stuff and get rid of it. But I think like we eventually kind of return. The ape coin thing was interesting to me too, because and you might be able to explain this better. It was kind of dropped as a reward, but also it had a lot to do with the other side land sale. Now I don't know what the Aku token would look like if that would ever be a thing. But when I look at what like Dingling got dropped to him for ApeCoin, like be pretty cool to have like $10 million just boom here, here you go.
Crazy. Yeah, I mean the ape coin drop thing, I think was obviously great for me and other holders, but I think it kind of put an unrealistic expectation into everybody's minds going forwards. I mean, so held at the time one ape, one mutant. Oh, my alarm, 1 second. One ape, one mutant, and one kennel club dog.
Mm-hmm.
So I think together that got me just under 13,000 ape coins. And I mean, I think the thing launched at like $4 or $5. So right away, I was given like $65,000, which is probably 30x what I put into the ape in the first place.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what the heck is going on? And then obviously they started hyping the other side. The coin went up to $26. I'm sitting on, geez, it was almost $400,000 in ape coin. And I was so bought into the whole thing, I almost felt culty. Didn't take anything off the board at the top, of course. But whatever it was, it ended up letting me reinvest back into two mutants, back on the come down. But I don't know. I mean, the ApeCoin thing is like right now. What I feel with ApeCoin is you kind of have an opinion on, like ideas and things that can come for the ape community, right? Like the ApeCoin DAO votes on, should there be an ape only marketplace and where should it be and who should run it? Who should run branding? Who should run this? Who should run that? So it really is turning into a fully decentralized autonomy there, which is interesting. And then obviously there's the staking that they're talking about coming up this month. So that's pretty cool. And the Aku token would be pretty unique, but I would wonder what the ties would be, right? We see a lot of teasers into what they're building in Unreal Engine, so I think it would be cool to have status there more so than, I think it sets unrealistic expectations on people to expect, hey, we're moon gods, we're going to get dropped 10,000 Aku tokens that are going to be worth, $7 a piece or something. Like that would be pretty cool, but that's just, I feel like is so unrealistic. But the fact that an Aku token that we could get, proportionally more so than regular, Aku chapter or regular Aku tar holders that could maybe have value in what they're building in Unreal Engine, that would be pretty cool. Or maybe, these brand partners decide that that's a currency that they're willing to accept at their locations as well. So that's something that's extremely unique and kind of where social currency is just going in general, which is pretty cool. But I don't know. That seemed like such a one-off thing for me. Obviously, the Gutter Cat gang is working on their gang token right now too. That's been getting pushed off a little bit, and I think it's because all these people have such high expectations for what they're expecting to come out of this, right? Like what would you say if they dropped an Aku token and it ended up being worth, like, our portion was only worth like $250 or $500 or something? Like that would almost turn people off, I think, based on expectations they had, versus being an added bonus or a dividend to what you get for holding. So it's a tricky situation, and I do not envy creators that have to try to follow suit to what ApeCoin did. And I kind of hope that a lot of people don't try to mimic it personally, because I think that it could bring a lot of negative attraction that would be pricey for the project as well too. So it's weird. It's tricky.
JwowLax?
I think for that reason, I doubt that we see an Aku token, and probably for good reason, because I think that managing a community's expectations is paramount, right? Because I think it's really easy to kind of become, a little down or upset or whatnot. But H-Man, as you mentioned, I think having Roger there as the voice is just tremendous. Like I think that was a fantastic hire. I don't know how you do better than that. And I think now, like, I compare this to the ICO stage, right? So I was around when Cardano released for like half a cent. You could buy as many as you want for Cardanos for half a cent, right? And then it rose to, I think, like 13 cents. And it went back down. And at the time, I was terrified and I sold everything, right? I was there for all that stuff. Any coin, I invested, it went down. I got scared, and I'm like, that will never happen again, right? So I kind of feel like this is the same situation for me, where like now you have the Micahs of the world who can just build in silence, right? And I just trust in what he's doing so much that it's just a matter of not if, but when. So it's just a matter of holding and being patient and just enjoying the journey. Because I do think, like, I talked to JWowL about this, but look at all the things that they have delivered. At the height, those mega OG passes were going for, 50, 60, 70 grand, right? Those,
Crazy.
during the reveal, the Akutas were going for 4 or 5 ETH. As you mentioned before, we were given chapter 4, we were given chapter 8. There's Aku's new friend. I mean, they've definitely over delivered on that from that perspective. So I'm very happy just to kind of wait and believe in the vision. And I think good things are coming.
I agree with you 100%, man. I think I was doing some calculations at the peak, and Moon God set plus what you were airdropped was going for like, you know, almost $200,000. So
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy, and that's off of a $8,000 investment buying 8 chapters. And of that $8,000 investment, you were gifted 2 additional chapters that, if
Yeah.
you sold at the right times, could have been a free investment. So it's pretty amazing. And if that was spelled out, which it has been multiple times to people, I think people would be a lot more attracted towards it.
But I
I
feel
don't
like it hasn't been spelled out though. Like it
know.
has it, but it hasn't.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody understands. Nobody understands. Like I was trying to explain it. I think I tweeted it right when we were airdropped not right when we were airdropped the passes, but when the passes were peaking, I tweeted something out like I was airdropped as much money from Micah Johnson as I was from JwowLax when Akutars came out. Because at one point they were dead even, bro. It was crazy what the price action was. And I mean, it's because the art spoke for itself. It's because Micah spoke for himself. And it's a shame that, and I don't want to blame it all on a hiccup because that'll drive me, you, JWowL, Micah crazy. But it did kill momentum, so
It did. Yeah.
it 100% killed momentum, and it's tough because a lot of people choose to remember that rather than a lot of the other things that occurred in that month span that was pretty damn spectacular. So I mean, I don't know, I'm with you guys, man. It's a matter of time. I mean, the brand speaks for itself, the community speaks for itself. um, I think it takes a lot of, I don't want to say this wrong because it's a touchy thing to say. I don't want I would say that not every person in Web3 is even capable of really representing Aku, if that makes sense. They either don't identify with Aku one way or the other. So I think that, once a lot more people join into the space and really realize what's going on here, more people would be attracted towards Aku than a lot of these other, you know, random projects that exist once, the real world starts coming in and looking for value. But you know what I mean by that? I don't want, I didn't want to say that too wrong, but it takes a good, a good person to buy and believe in a project like Aku. It's not the one that like alpha chats are going to be talking about trying to hype up. So
No, it's actually a genuine message, right? And it's not the hype of the day, or it's really like, hey, can astronauts be black? Like all can thrive. I mean, I just love the message. It's a unique movement, and it takes time. Like anything that, I'm working on making brisket now, right? And then all the time and the care and to do it the right way, it's something that requires patience, and I've definitely bought in that. Now, something that I don't really like, you give me a perspective on that maybe I don't see is I kind of feel that we're past the whole, I don't know what we call it, but the the D-Day for Aku. Do you still think there's sentiment out there with people who still hold that against us?
I don't. I think I don't know. I think maybe they do and don't realize it, right? Because I think, something drops, let's say, you kind of build your pros and cons list in your head. And, maybe this con is still on their con list, although it's not at the top anymore. But I will say it's not like, you know, people still might think we have a small bank, and
Mm.
it's not like you can flash your bank. Mike is going to flash his bank account. Like I got plenty to roll with this. I'm rocking with Jay-Z. I'm rocking with Pharrell. It's like he's not going to do that. But like, I think some people in their heads are like, all right, during this crisis, like, our volume is pretty solid, but it's not like the most skyrocketed where they're making millions off of royalties right now as well. So, to the naked eye, they might not find that we got the funds to perform everything that we're doing when we obviously know that's not the case. So I don't know. It's a little tricky. I would say that the main hurdle has definitely passed. I mean, when we saw the floor drop to like, zero point 0.3, and then now we kind of doubled up since then, come down a little bit, but kind of shows that, the people getting in now are the people that are understanding that hurdle is gone. So
I
I
no,
won't last. I had a friend. I don't want to shout him out because it's not like the best story necessarily, but I met up with him at an ape event, And I hope he watches this or he hears this. And he said to me, 99% is going to zero. You might want to get out of that Aku project that you're in. And I was like, I agree, 99% are going, to the road to zero, but Aku is not one of them. And that person has since joined the Aku community themselves. So, that was a pretty cool thing for me mentally, showing that people have hurdled over that. So
That's awesome. If you ever like really listen to Summer when she speaks, I don't remember when it was, but she alludes to some of the backing in the background that we're not aware of. I don't know if you ever pay attention to that, but I really think that I think we're absolutely fine, and better than fine. I really think we're on a great trajectory. I love the fact that builders can build without pressure, and I'm just really excited to see what happens in the future.
yeah, man, me too. Me too.
Well, guys, we're kind of we usually shoot for 30, 45 minutes for our podcast. That was the initial goal. Of course, I'm never ever gonna get 30 minutes. I'm always gonna slam through it. So we always have our two hard hitting questions that we end the show with. Um, it just comes off the top of my head. But before we do that, just want to make sure, is there anything else you got, Lovox, before we wrap this puppy up?
Next time I go to New York, I want to go to your favorite restaurant. What would you send me? What neighborhood do I need to go to, and what kind of food can I expect to eat?
Wow. I mean, you could always go Brooklyn to Peter Luger's as a classic steakhouse. The ambiance is worth it, in my opinion, too. It's pretty damn good. Um, Italian food wise, there's probably so many good places in the city, but like I'm pretty basic. I would say Parm is a great spot just to get a nice chicken parm. Big fan of Joe's Pizza. Um, Obviously Nobu is Nobu, but there's also a place called Sugarfish, got pretty great sushi. So I don't know, a little bit of everything. I've been cooking more recently, so I don't
There
know.
you
I
go.
got to try some new spots to where I moved at now. So, but yeah, definitely come through. I'd be happy to show you around and hang out. That'd be dope.
Awesome.
Well, we're gonna all be in Miami, so we'll,
Yep.
we'll definitely. Last year there was a lot of moon god activity, and I think this year will be more organized. I have the infamous story of it's hard for me to remember the names, but like I guess it was Tuggy. Him and his wife were going into a club as I was coming out, and he was wearing athletic shorts, and I switched shorts with him so he could get into the club. So there's going to be plenty of more legendary South Bay stories to come. South Bay, that's where I live in LA. South Beach. So my two questions for you, H man. You're a young guy. Uh, you've got these virtual bags, if you will. Where's the vacation spot that like you've always kind of wanted to do that now you can kind of make happen? Like it doesn't have to be your next vacation, but
Yeah.
like where you
Well, I would say I've always wanted to go to Thailand. I see all the pictures of people with elephants, and I think that would be like some pretty crazy thing to do. And that's kind of like, I feel like something that if you have the opportunity to, you do once and once only. You don't, it's probably an expensive trip, mentally exhausting to go halfway across the world too. That would be something I would love to do. But I don't know, I think it's stuff like that. And then I value what I have. And I'm like, would I really give up this to just experience something like that? And at my age, I'm saying no still. Um, when Akutars are worth, $40,000 each, maybe I'll get rid of one of them if the
yeah.
seller, if a buyer's lucky to then experience a trip like that. But I don't know. I've never really been a traveler. I'm pretty stoked in New York. You kind of got everything around outside of it too. But yeah, definitely Thailand was on my list, and I don't know. I'd like to see like the Amazon as well. That would be pretty cool.
Dude, first of all, Thailand for sure as a single man. Like if I don't know what your status is, don't want to, but Thailand as a single man would be a solid move. And then Brazil in the Amazon. I've done Peru, like I did Machu Picchu, and I've been to Colombia, but definitely the Amazon's a large, crazy place. So those are good spots. Good for a young man.
Yeah, man.
Final question for you is your boy Judge Yankees? You're a big fan. How I can I I'm looking at this, and so I was younger than you are now, but like in high school, I remember the Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa race. I was definitely around for, watching Barry Bonds. Obviously, those seasons are very tainted now looking back. But, McGuire Sosa kind of brought the excitement of baseball back. Barry Bonds was the whole time was very controversial with his, huge head and obvious enhancements. But I look at what's going on with Judge, and my biggest question for you as a diehard Yankees fan is this the greatest season by a Yankee player that you think? And also, like, how important is it for like Yankee lore? Because you guys kind of haven't, like if you don't win a World Series, after like a couple of years, like you guys are in a slump. Like, what's wrong with the Yankees?
I would say I'm trying to remember what year it was. I was like probably 12, 13, so probably like a little before 2010. A-Rod had a year he hit like 358 with like 56 homers and 152 RBIs, and I thought like, all right, that will just never be matched ever again. And then you kind of see, Judge was batting like 275 at the break and like fully climbed his batting average 40 points. I feel bad because the pressure put on him right now is so crazy that he might not even get 62. Like he's
Mhm.
got, I think we got a 3 or 4 game series. I want to say it's a 4 game series against Texas before the year is over in Texas. And I'd like to think someone will groove him one. But I mean, what you were saying about like you go a few years without a World Series and you're slumping. Like I saw the one World Series when I was in like sixth grade, and like since then we've had a great team, but we haven't won anything. So this is the first year that feels like we were battling for something other than a World Series on top of it. We're all fighting with Judge, looking for 62. I mean, I'm tuning off football to watch a random Judge at bat against the Orioles when our position in the playoffs is already perfectly set. Like, that's pretty crazy. So he really brought that excitement back. Um, I don't know, man. It still gets me nervous because the Astros are good, and that would just break my heart if that happened again.
So much that can happen. I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but I always say like I'm a Duke basketball fan. So if I have to pick a team, I always pick front runners. So I'm like, oh, I might as well be a Yankees fan. That's the same as being like Duke basketball. I always thought, in my opinion, like I think Derek Jeter is the greatest Yankee of all time. Like there's players with better stats, but someone that just encompassed, and that's who I grew up with. You
I agree with that, by the way. I mean, who Jeter was as a person, what he meant for New York, and his play was spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, you signed Judge to like a 10-year deal or something after this, and he gives himself the opportunity to put himself in that conversation. But I mean, he's had what 3, 4, 5 years with us. That's been great. He battled with injuries for the first half of it, and now he's like kind of doing his thing. But I just love how like humble he is, man. He's not the guy to toss his bat or showboat around the bases. He just gets up every day, goes to work, and does the best he can, which is pretty damn cool. So
And
I admire that.
he's fucking huge. That's a huge
Yeah, bro.
football
Yeah, bro. It's
player.
crazy. Crazy. I
So
can't imagine what it looks like from 6'8". I'm only
yeah,
like 5'8" myself, so can't imagine looking down on people like that. So
we need to get him as a moon god.
yes, yes, we do.
All right, well let's wrap this up. Lovox, closing thoughts.
I love those 6'8" people, just for the record. People that are 6'8", those tall folks. No, H man, truly wonderful to get your perspective and your thoughts and your journey. And just wanted to just want to say thank you once again for joining.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to see what you guys are doing with this podcast, and anything I can do to help, let me know. And yeah, man, it was fun times.
I'm glad you said that because we end the show. We're going to end the show every time by asking you who would you like to see on this podcast. But the one caveat is you have to help us get them on. So,
Ooh,
Mega Moon God, but you
well,
have to have a connection that you can be like, hey, be on the show.
I would say, obviously Roger's an easy one, but maybe William Savas. He's the one who got me originally into to Aku, and when I was saying that I was looking at people's trades early on in the Nifty Gateway days, he was the one who I was looking at, and when he changed his profile picture to an ape is when I started looking at him. So I'm
Didn't he buy
definitely
a statue?
What? Yeah, he
Since
bought a
what?
statue. Yeah, he
Yeah,
bought a statue. I saw
yeah.
his unboxing. Like, dude, I was the biggest fanboy for him. I even told him that when I saw him in New York City this year. So I got to reach out to him. You should definitely get him on the pod. That would be dope.
See, that's what it's all about. That's the community working, because I didn't even know who that guy was. But and it's also hard, like I said, like Discord names like JwowLax, but my name is Jason Harrell. You can find me on all those social medias. I wrote a book called The Bartending Therapist. My Twitter handle is Bar Therapist. It's like hard to align everything as especially as you grow older. I've had my Twitter handle for forever. So
Right.
uh anyways, rambling. That's going to do it for the Moon God Pod. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, especially check out H-Man. He is a legend in the Moon God arena. And, we've been here since day one. We plan on riding this to the moon. Look forward to all your support wherever you listen to podcasts. Drop us like a comment, a review, share. Aku is more than just a project or an investment. It's a movement, and that's what we're all about. For Lovox, H-Man, I'm Jason Harrell, aka JwowLax, to the Moon God Pod. See you next time.